The crash of September 2008 brought the largest bankruptcies in world history, pushed over 30 million people into unemployment, and brought many countries to the edge of insolvency. Wall Street turned back the clock to 1929.
The tremendous crowds which you see gathered outside are due to the greatest crash in the history of the New York Stock Exchange.
After the Wall Street crash of '29, which led to the Great Depression, the U.S. Congress launched an official investigation.
Interest in the senatorial bank investigation as J.P. Morgan arrives to testify.
J.P. Morgan was among the business titans to be called to account by the Pecora Commission. Flash photography was introduced to heighten the spectacle. In 2010, the same model is followed for a new investigation of a new financial collapse.
Panel, ladies, photographers, move aside.
Former California Treasurer Phil Angelides is chairman of the Financial Crisis Inquiry Commission.
I'm honored to welcome you as we start this series of public hearings into the causes of the financial and economic crisis.
He has taken sworn testimony from a parade of government and bank officials, trying to get to the bottom of what really caused the 2008 meltdown.
I don't believe.
Violent clashes erupted on the streets of Athens Sunday as the Greek parliament voted to overhaul pensions and increase taxes. The vote took place ahead of a meeting of Eurozone finance ministers to discuss Greece's fiscal strategy and debt sustainability. The Greek government hopes these austerity measures will impress the country's creditors and unlock bailout funds.
Μετά από 6 ολόκληρα χρόνια που ευρωπαϊκά όργανα συνεδριάζουν διαρκώς για να συζητήσουν για την ελληνική κρίση και συζητάνε μόνο για μέτρα λιτότητας, αύριο το Eurogroup θα συνεδριάσει με ημερήσια ατζέντα και την ελάφρυνση του ελληνικού χρέους.
Greece's most influential creditors, Germany and the International Monetary Fund, remain deadlocked over the terms of Greece's bailout plan, which the IMF thinks is badly flawed, but Germany says can't be changed. The Greek finance minister sent a letter to other Eurozone finance ministers on Friday, arguing his government can't be expected to pass even tougher cuts totaling 9 billion euros. The return of the Greek debt crisis this spring is exposing the limits of last July's bailout agreement, which avoided a Greek exit from the euro after a hard-fought confrontation between Athens and its lenders. The agreement left open the question of whether and how to restructure Greece's massive debt, which the IMF says is unsustainable.
Prima erano dei compagni dirigenti di un'organizzazione lontana, ormai
una cartolina a Bruxelles e anche un...
Oggi abbiamo scelto di aderire in tanti per dire che la solidarietà è...
For the Greek economy, most of the difficult fiscal measures have been taken. Strengthen the IMF, which is a tool of stability. So I very much hope that the United States will actually deliver on its leadership commitment. In the hands of the US authorities, Congress and the executive, to actually implement the leadership that is so much needed.
Modern civilization, which enables us to maintain 4 billion people in this world, was made possible by the institution of private property. It's only thanks to this institution that we achieved an extensive order far exceeding anybody's knowledge. And if we destroy that moral basis, which consists in the recognition of private property, I think we will destroy the sources which nourish present-day mankind and create a catastrophe of starvation beyond anything mankind has yet experienced.
80% of the world's people barely have any wealth. It's hard to even see them on the chart. Meanwhile, the richest 2%, they have more wealth than half of the rest of the world. Let's look at this chart another way. Let's take the whole world's population, all 7 billion of us, and reduce it to just a representative 100 individuals. Here they are, poorest people on the left, richest people on the right. Now let's show how the world's total wealth, roughly $223 trillion, is distributed. The vast majority have practically nothing. Nothing with which to educate their children, nothing with which to pay for basic medicines. While the richest 1%, they've accumulated 43% of our world's wealth. The bottom 80%, meanwhile, that's 8 out of every 10 people, have just 6% between them. But even this doesn't really show how extreme things have become. The richest 300 people on Earth have the same wealth as the poorest 3 billion. So the number of people it takes to fill a mid-sized commercial aircraft have more wealth than the populations of India, China, the US, and Brazil combined. We can also see this difference geographically, with a huge and growing gap between a few rich places versus the majority of the world. For most of history, things were much more equal. 200 years ago, rich countries were only 3 times richer than poor countries. By the end of colonialism in the 1960s, they were 35 times richer. Today, they're about 80 times richer. Rich countries try to compensate for this by giving aid to poor countries, about $130 billion each year. That's a lot of money. So then why does the wealth gap keep getting bigger? One reason is that large corporations are taking more than $900 billion out of poor countries each year through a form of tax avoidance called trade mispricing. On top of this, each year poor countries are paying about $600 billion in debt service to rich countries on loans that have already been paid off many times over. And then there's the money that poor countries lose from trade rules imposed by rich countries to get access to more resources and cheaper labor. Economists from the University of Massachusetts calculate that this costs poor countries about $500 billion a year. Altogether, that's more than $2 trillion that flows from some of the poorest parts of the world to the richest. Every year. Rich governments like to say they're helping poor countries develop. But who's developing who here? This makes me think that there's something wrong with the basic rules of the global economy.
99 workers arrested from the Maruti plant, India's largest automaker, in Manesar, Haryana.
और जो व्यक्ति भी इस मामले के अंदर शामिल पाया जाएगा, उस पर न केवल जानलेवा हमला करने, बल्कि कत्ल का जो मुकदमा है वो हमने दर्ज कर लिया है।
We are not being prosecuted. We are being persecuted.
तो जी हमारी क्या राय होगा हमारा? कोई राय नहीं होता जी। हम तड़प के बच्चे के मारे तो यहीं खपाएंगे हम। जेल में डाल लो इन्हें। जेल में डाल दो पूरे परिवार को जेल में डाल दो।
Multinational company is involved in it. State is and out for the multinational company.
सबसे बड़ी दिक्कत ये आ रही है कि यहाँ जो राज्य सरकार है ना, वो खड़ी है कंपनी के साथ। राज्य सरकार का काम होता है वैसे एक फेयर ट्रायल कराना, निष्पक्ष होकर कराना। यहाँ पे क्या है, सरकार ने एक ऐसा खड़ा कर दिया है, मिस्टर तुलसी जो है कांग्रेस के वर्कर हैं, एक दिन की फीस 11,85,000।
गोली चलाने वाली सरकार मुर्दाबाद, मुर्दाबाद, मुर्दाबाद। शोषण करना बंद करो, बंद करो, बंद करो।
कहीं पे भी मार्च या उसका जिक्र या आपको अनुमति नहीं दी गई है।
They protested against the Saitem private university in Malabar, while also demanding an end to what they called a sale of education. The protesters were seen marching towards Bambalapitiya through Town Hall and Tummulla junctions.